Netizen Misunderstood. Jimin reveals why Jungkook looks cold in public. BTS's Jungkook name is back in the hot spotlight on social media. This time it was not because of his brilliant achievements on the international stage, nor because of the streaming records or awards he achieved, but because of his attitude in front of the public, which some netizens considered cold, indifferent, even arrogant. Pieces of videos, candid photos, and recordings of public events are again twisted, cut without context, and then spread with a negative narrative. But in the midst of the boisterous misunderstanding, Jimin finally spoke up and opened up the real reason behind Jungkook's often misinterpreted attitude that it all started with Jungkook's recent public appearances. His expression looks flat, he rarely smiles, his gaze is often directed downward, and his interaction with the camera is not as intense as it used to be. For longtime fans, this change is no stranger. But for some netizens who only saw a brief snippet without understanding the background, the attitude was quickly labeled as a sign of arrogance. Scathing comments have sprung up, calling Jungkook changed after being at the peak of popularity, forgetful of himself, and no longer as humble as he used to be. The army was divided. Some tried to defend by reminding that Jungkook is also a human being who can get tired, while others chose to remain silent because they felt any explanation would be drowned out by the noise of negative opinion. In the midst of that situation, the figure who understood Jungkook the most chose to speak, not to attack, but to straighten out. Jimin, a close friend and groupmate since his trainee days, calmly reveals a side of Jungkook that is rarely seen by the public in a moment of interview and internal conversation that later came to the attention of fans. Jimin explained that Jungkook's cold-looking attitude was not a reflection of his personality, but a form of self-protection. According to Jimin, Jungkook is the type of person who absorbs the emotions around him very strongly. The greater the public attention, the greater the pressure he feels. Jungkook doesn't care. On the contrary, he cares so much that he has to put up a wall so that it doesn't collapse in front of everyone. Jimin said that Jungkook often felt afraid to make the slightest mistake. Every gesture, every facial expression, even the way he stands can be a matter of debate on the internet. It was this fear that made Jungkook choose to be more cautious, more introverted, and appear cold. Not because he feels superior to others, but because he doesn't want to hurt anyone or spark new controversies. Furthermore, Jimin revealed that behind the camera, Jungkook is still the Jungkook the members know. He was still joking, still laughing, still showing genuine concern. He only chooses to keep that side for those he truly trusts. For Jungkook, the stage and public spaces are a place to work, not a place to open up to his feelings. It is this professional attitude that some people find ironically cold. That Jimin's explanation is a subtle slap to the culture of judging a person from a brief visual snippet. Jungkook grew up under the spotlight from a very young age. He learns about the world, failure, praise, and hate simultaneously, at an age when many others are still searching for their true selves. It is not surprising that as he grows older, he chooses to be more careful about expressing himself. The maturity that he builds is precisely often misunderstood as emotional distance. The army's reaction to Jimin's clarification was mixed, but the majority were moved. Many fans admitted that they had just realized how heavy a mental burden Jungkook had been carrying all this time. The figure, who on stage looked perfect, apparently harbored a deep anxiety about how she was perceived. This clarification also opens a wider discussion about the mental health of idols and the unrealistic expectations that are often imposed on them. Interestingly, Jimin's clarification is not defensive or blaming anyone. He did not attack netizens, nor did he refute criticism with anger. It just tells Jungkook as a human being. This attitude actually makes many people who were previously skeptical begin to reconsider their judgment. There is a big difference between coldness and caution, and Jungkook falls into the latter category, that in an entertainment world that demands constant smiles and boundless friendliness. Jungkook's decision to keep his emotional distance in front of the public is actually a form of courage. He chose to be true to himself rather than impose a false persona to please everyone. But in the era of fast-paced and superficial social media, this kind of honesty is often outdone by assumptions. Jimin, in a simple but meaningful way, reminded that Jungkook had not turned into a cold person. What is changing is the environment around it. The pressure is getting bigger, and the demands are getting unreasonable. Jungkook only adapted to survive. He learned to protect his heart, not exalt his ego. Now, after the clarification was circulated, many ARMY hopes the public can be wiser. Judging someone by a few seconds of video footage is an injustice, especially for someone who has spent most of his life entertaining and inspiring. Jungkook may seem quieter, calmer, and more introverted, but that doesn't erase the sincerity and hard work he has shown over the years. In the end, this story isn't just about Jungkook or BTS. It's about how we view the human behind the spotlight. Jimin has opened the curtain that has been covering the reasons behind Jungkook's attitude. It remains for the public to choose whether to continue to get caught up in misunderstandings or start learning to see with empathy. Empathy is what is often forgotten when talking about Jungkook. After Jimin's explanation was widely circulated, many fans began to realize that the so-called cold attitude was actually a form of maturity that grew out of a long experience of being under extreme pressure. Jungkook no longer reacts spontaneously like a newly debuted teenager. He is now a grown man who understands that every smile, every nod of the head, even every look in his eyes can be interpreted differently by millions of pairs of eyes. Jimin even hinted that Jungkook often feels guilty when his expression is misunderstood. There were moments when Jungkook asked himself if he was doing his best as a public figure, not because he is hungry for recognition, but because he does not want to disappoint anyone. Ironically, a strong desire not to hurt the feelings of others makes him even more restrained, and that restraint is what appears to be emotional distance that in BTS's internal circles. Jungkook is known as a very sensitive figure. He pays attention to small details, changes in the mood of other members, and often chooses silence when he feels his words could be misinterpreted. Jimin emphasized that Jungkook is not the type of person who is comfortable talking at length in front of many people about his feelings. He prefers to show concern through small actions that are rarely exposed to the camera. But in the viral era, things that are not visible are considered non-existent. This phenomenon shows how the public image can be detached from personal reality. Jungkook, who in the eyes of close fans looks warm, loving, and humble, in the eyes of some netizens is actually branded cold just because he doesn't meet the expectations of instant entertainment. The expectation that an idol should always be cheerful, always friendly, and always look ready to please anyone at any time is slowly becoming an inhuman burden. Jimin also mentioned that Jungkook is in a phase of life full of reflection. He thinks a lot, ponders a lot, and more often processes everything internally. This phase is natural for anyone who has grown up under the spotlight since childhood. Jungkook is learning to know himself beyond the label of golden magne that has been attached to him.